So once again, we'll look at the family tree. Every week, we are just going to see what the story that we covered in the previous session. So in this, since we got a break last week, so let's quickly look at the family tree of the Kauravas and Pandavas. So King Shantanu with Ganga Devi. We remember the curses that the Vasus got with the King Shantanu and Ganga Devi. They had 8 kids. The first 7 kids, Ganga Devi threw them in the river as part of the broader plan of the Vasus and their curse from Vasishta. And the 8th kid is Devavrata, and he later on became a very powerful and great warrior. He promised, so after the King Shantanu got back the Devavrata, Bhishma, Ganga left, and then to unite Satyavati with King Shantanu in marriage, Devavrata, he promised Satyavati's father that he would never marry, that he would never have children. Because of his great promise, he later was called as Bhishma. So King Shantanu and Ganga's child, Devavrata, Bhishma. And then Parashara and Satyavati. Parashara is a great sage. Once Satyavati was helping him cross the river on a boat, and he blessed her with the great child Vedavyasa, who is also the narrator of this story and many other epics and many other scriptures in our culture. So that is the birth of Vedavyasa. King Shantanu and Satyavati, they get married because of the promise that Bhishma did. And then they had 2 children, Vichitravirya, 2 boys, Vichitravirya and Chitrangada. Chitrangada, he turned out to be a great warrior, but due to false ego, he challenges a Gandharva with the same name, that 2 people should not be there with the same name. So they duel it out, they battle it out, and the human Chitrangada, the son of Shantanu and Satyavati, he dies in that battle. So that leaves the kingdom with Vichitravirya. So Bhishma, he goes to he wanted Vichitravirya to get married, so he brings Ambika and Ambalika from the Swayamvara of Kashi kingdom, and then he gets Vichitravirya married to Ambika and Ambalika. And then there was a parallel story of Amba, which we are not going to go into. You all remember that story. So Vichitravirya and Ambika. So Vichitravirya, after a few years, he dies before having any children. So Satyavati's first son, Vedavyasa, he calls upon his help. So he comes to Hastinapura. He blesses Ambika with Dhritarashtra, one child, Dhritarashtra, and then he blesses Ambalika with a child, Pandu. Dhritarashtra is a blind child because of how the blessing went, and Pandu, they grow up to be very strong princes. And then Pandu becomes the king because Dhritarashtra is blind and he's not eligible to be a king. But Pandu, he gives all the power and all the respect to Dhritarashtra, and he does all the other administration of the kingdom. And then Dhritarashtra gets married to Gandhari. Again, Bhishma always looks out for the Kuru dynasty and how to improve the dynasty and look at the lineage, the children, and how to expand the kingdom. So he knows that Gandhari has a boon from Lord Shiva, that she is going to be the mother of 100 boys and a girl. So he immediately thinks that Dhritarashtra is a good match for Gandhari. So they both get married. And Pandu, he gets married to Kunti and Madri. Kunti, if you remember, Kunti is the aunt of Lord Krishna. So that is how they're all related. So Kunti's father, biological father, is and he gives Kunti to his cousin for adoption at a very young age. Her original name is Pratha, but since Kunti Bhoja adopted her and raised her, she was named Kunti. And when she was very young, she actually did a lot of service to sage Durvasa. Because of that service, she got a mantra and a boon from sage Durvasa that she can chant the mantra and invoke any god and get a child from that god. So without knowing, before marriage, she calls upon Surya Deva, sun god, and in turn she gets her first child, Karna. She has to give that child up. So Radha and Suta, they both adopt that child, Karna. They both raise him as their own son. And then Pandu and Kunti, and Pandu, one day when he was hunting, he gets cursed by a sage. So Kunti, with the help of the gods, with the prowess of the mantra and with the prowess of the blessings of sage Durvasa, she calls upon Yamadharmaraja, the god of after death and dharma. He gives them the child Yudhishthira. The second child Bhima was born with the blessings of wind god, and the third child Arjuna was born with the blessings of Indra. And then Pandu asked Kunti to teach that mantra to Madri also, and with the help of the blessings of Ashwini gods, they are twins, and that's why they get twins as their blessings. So Pandu and Madri, they have twin boys, Nakula and Sahadeva. And meanwhile, Gandhari gets jealous that Yudhishthira was born before her child, and she's been pregnant at that time. So she hits upon her womb because of the jealousy, and that womb, the child inside the womb breaks into 100 pieces, 101 pieces. And Vedavyasa, once again, he comes to Hastinapura. He puts those pieces in special oils, and all those pieces, they turn into children. And Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they have 100 boys, Duryodhana, eldest among them, and 99 brothers after him, and one sister, Dushala. So that is the story that we have covered so far. So in a very fast and high level overview, we covered some more additional stories on the side, but this is the main crux of the family tree and how it all developed. So now let's get started with this week's story. So Pandu, Kunti and Madri. So that is where we are going to start. So if you remember, so Pandu had 3 children with Kunti and 2 children with Madri. So they are very happy in the forest. They still continue to live in the forest. These boys were very small and young. They were babies. And after a few years of peace and happiness in the forest, King Pandu died. Again, everything seems good and everything seems nice in their Kuru dynasty, and something happens for them. In the same way, so misery struck again for them, and King Pandu died in the forest. And his wife Madri, she was heartbroken and filled with sorrow. She also decided to give up her life. So they both died, and their all the services, all the afterlife rituals are performed in the forest for Pandu and Madri. Now Queen Kunti was left alone with 5 little princes: Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, and Madri's twin boys, Nakula and Sahadeva. So gathering all the courage, now she's in the forest with the boys and some rishis and sages. So now her options are whether to go back to Hastinapura. And remember, her maternal side also, where she came from, her father, he is the king Surasena, and her that is the biological father, and her adopted father Kunti Bhoja, he was also a king. So she could go to any place and she could raise her boys there, but she chose to go to Hastinapura because they belong to the Kuru dynasty. He always wanted them to grow up in Hastinapura along with Bhishma and all the great people of Hastinapura. So gathering all her courage, Kunti brought the 5 children back to Hastinapura, the grand capital of the Kuru dynasty, or the Kuru kingdom. So when Bhishma, the great elder of the Kuru family, right, he heard that Pandu had died, he was deeply saddened. Again, it goes back to Prabhasa. If you remember from week 1, he did one small mistake of stealing Vasishta's cow. and he got a curse to live the life of a human. And life of a human, it is a mix of everything, mix of happiness, mix of sadness, mix of joy, mix of all kinds of emotions, right? For Bhishma, if you see, it's all sacrifice, and he is seeing his peers, his next generation going away and leaving him in sorrow, and giving him the responsibility. The less responsibility he wanted about the kingdom, the more he is getting. So then he heard about Pandu and his death, and he was deeply saddened. So he went out to meet Kunti and the princess. He was all sorrow, and he was full of tears. The whole palace and the Hastinapura, they all mourned the loss of their beloved king Pandu. So Bhishma then comforted Kunti. He welcomed her to Hastinapura, and he promised to take good care of her children. So under Bhishma's care, the 5 Pandavas started growing up in the royal palace along with their 100 cousins, the Kauravas. They are the sons of King Dhritarashtra and Queen Gandhari. From now on, again, all these, the family tree that we saw, the Kuru is the king before all of them, and technically all of them should be called as Kauravas. But at this point, because of King Pandu and how great he was, now there will be Kauravas and Pandavas. And from this point, when I refer Kauravas, it is the children of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. And Pandavas will be the 5 boys of Pandu, Kunti and Madri. So that will be a division from this point of time. So at first, all the boys, everybody, they all played together as one big family. They learned lessons from the same teachers, shot arrows in the same grounds. They practiced the sword fighting together, like all good times. They're going to school together, they're playing together, they're all very happy together, one big family. But soon differences began to appear, especially between Bhima and Duryodhana. Bhima is the second son of Pandu and Kunti, and Duryodhana is the eldest of the Kauravas. Bhima was very strong. Even as a boy, as a child, he was very, very strong, because he was born with the blessings of wind god. And also we refer to the children of wind god, the other child of wind god, Hanuman. We know how strong he is, and Bhima was also born with that kind of strength. So even as a little boy, he was very, very strong. So while playing, he used to lift a whole group of boys on his shoulders. He just used to rotate them around, throw them around, and when all of the boys, they used to play around in the river, and Bhima he loved to show his strength. He used to show it off. He would splash around all the water. Sometimes he used to hold the Kauravas under the water for too long, 10 of them, 15 of them, and he used to overpower them. Even as a group, they never used to be able to overcome his power. So he did not mean to hurt them, but it was just his strength was so much that it just used to come out no matter what. So he was just a strong and a playful child. Sometimes it used to feel like it is bullying, or it used to feel like it used to make the Kauravas very angry. So sometimes when the Kauravas, they used to climb up the trees to pluck the fruit, and Bhima, he used to stand at the bottom of the tree. He used to shake the whole trunk, and all the fruit fell from the tree along with the boys on top of the tree. So he used to enjoy those. He used to laugh out loudly. Then he used to think it is all fun. But Kauravas, they did not laugh, and they didn't think it was fun. They were angry and they were scared. They grew to dislike Bhima. Duryodhana, especially their eldest brother, started to hate him the most. He watched Bhima's strength and jealousy. He started developing jealousy in his heart. And always for Duryodhana, when he saw the Pandavas, he always saw them as his competitors for the throne. He never saw them as cousins or brothers. He always thought of them as his enemies. And then he sees Bhima emerging as this force, unstoppable force with this unmatched power. So obviously he was very jealous, and he was always thinking of ways to defeat him. And he used to think, okay, Bhima is the strongest of the Pandavas, and he used to think that if he can get rid of him, he can easily become king one day. His eyes, his vision was always on the kingdom and the throne. That is his end game. Even as a child, even when he was very young, that was always his end game. So he made a secret plan. So that was among the first wicked plans against the Pandavas that Duryodhana designed. One day he invited the Pandavas to a beautiful palace near the river. So the Pandavas agreed happily. They thought it was like a great picnic and a great time to have fun with all their cousins. So they all the five Pandavas, they went and they played together around the palace and inside the river. They swam for a long time, they splashed, they laughed, they played so many games. And then after playing for a long time, and they all went into the palace to eat. And Duryodhana, he arranged for a very big meal for all of them. Then, as part of his wicked plan, he served Bhima a special plate of food, and he mixed poison in it. So you can see how Duryodhana's mind is working even as a child. He went so far that he's ready to kill somebody, his own brother actually. He is ready to kill because of jealousy, because of greed, and because of the want to become king one day. As a young child, this is how his mind is working. So Bhima, he did not know, and Bhima, he is very passionate about food. He used to eat big proportions, very big proportions compared to others, and he used to be excited about food. So as soon as he saw all the food, he didn't even give it a thought. He just happily ate whatever was in the plate, even though it was mixed with the poison. And then they all went back to play in the water, and after some time they all were very tired and they all left to rest. Due to the poison, Bhima's head started to spin, and he began to feel very weak. So he was feeling dizzy. Soon he fell down on the river bank and he fainted. He lost consciousness. So Duryodhana, he quickly tied Bhima with the vines and the creepers and all the plants there, the strong plants. Instead of using ropes and all, he wanted to make it look like it was natural. He wanted to make it look like Bhima went to swim in the water, and the plants inside the water, he got stuck in them and then he just drowned. See how deep he's thinking. Even as a child, that is how his mind works, so wicked and so cruel. So he used all those plants and vines and creepers, and he tied Bhima, and he threw him into the water. And Bhima, he was unconscious and his hands were tied, so he couldn't swim. So he sank deep down into the water. At the bottom of the river lived the Nagas. Nagas are the celestial community of snakes. They're the community of snakes, all kinds of different kinds of snakes. They're a celestial community with special powers and very strong Nagas. So to give you an example, if you see the picture of Lord Shiva, he always has a snake around his neck. That is Vasuki. He is one of the heads of the Naga community. So Vasuki, again, Lord Vishnu, he sleeps on a snake, serpent. That is, he is also part of the Naga community. His name is Adisesha. Adisesha, Vasuki, they are all brothers, and they are all part of this Naga community with very special, strong powers. So all those Nagas, they surrounded Bhima and they started biting him. They bit him many times, but something strange happened. Even after the snake venom, when the snake bites, the venom gets into the body, right? The snake venom, instead of impacting Bhima in a negative way, it started removing the poison from Bhima's body. So they both counteracted each, the venom from the poison, the venom from the snakes, they both counteracted and neutralized. So it worked as an antidote, the snake bites, for the poison that Duryodhana gave. So that's what happens when, for good people, when they have God's blessings, even the worst of the enemies, even these wicked plans, all of them, they start working in favor of the good people. So that is the greatness of the blessings of the Lord and being good. So the snake venom removed, it worked as the antidote for the poison. So slowly Bhima, he woke up to find the snakes, and he realized that he's underwater, and he saw that he's surrounded by snakes, and he immediately thought that they're all attacking him. So he broke those vines and he started fighting them. Again, I told his power, right? His power is unmatched. Even as a child, he was born with the power of 1,000 elephants. So he started squishing them, throwing them around, hitting the heads together, and they started getting worried. They started panicking, and they all ran to their king Vasuki, and they complained to their king Vasuki, and they asked him to protect them against the little boy that came into the waters. So the king Vasuki, he came and he looked at Bhima, and he immediately realized that this is not an ordinary boy. He is meant, or he's born to do great things, and there is a destiny, and Lord Krishna is always going to be with him. So Vasuki, with his special powers, he realized that, and he asked them to bless him and take him safely back onto the surface of the river. The Nagas immediately, they agreed, they obeyed their king. They blessed the boy Bhima, even making him even stronger than he was. Already is a very strong boy, and with the blessings of the Nagas and the blessings of King Vasuki, he got even more powers. And then the Nagas, they lifted him up and they carried him up to the river's surface. Meanwhile, Bhima has been missing for a long time. So Kunti and the Pandavas, they were very worried. They could not find Bhima anywhere. They feared that he had drowned or some animal took him away. So they mind running to different places, and they started panicking. When Bhima finally came out of the river, everyone was surprised. The Pandavas and the Kunti and their mother Kunti, they ran to him with joy, and they were very happy that he returned and that he is safe. Then Bhima explained what had happened, that suddenly he was all the way down in the river. At that point of time, they didn't add everything together, that this is all Duryodhana's plot, but somehow he realized that he started narrating that, okay, I ended up at the bottom of the river, and I was surrounded by all these Nagas. I started fighting them, and then King Vasuki came, and they all blessed me. So they were all happy to hear that. The Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, he was in shock. That is not what he planned at all. He thought of something, but something else happened, and in favor of Bhima. So he was shocked, he was panicking even more, and his jealousy is even more at this point of time. And Bhima, he smiled, and they were all happy. The Pandavas, they started playing, and Bhima, he felt stronger than ever, even more stronger than he was before. So that is one of the plots that Duryodhana did. So you can imagine at that time, if he has that kind of jealousy, those plots against Pandavas, they continued, especially against Bhima. Duryodhana's mind always worked something or the other to kill Bhima and to weaken the Pandavas. But every time God is behind them, and they are good people with the blessings of the gods, so their goodness always protected them. Now we are going to introduce a few more characters into the story. So this is the story of Drona, who is going to be the teacher of Pandavas and Kauravas. So long ago, there lived a wise and peaceful and powerful sage named Bharadwaja. He had a son named Dronacharya. He will be called as Dronacharya in the future, but he had a son named Drona. Sage Bharadwaja, he had a school, he had an ashram. These very wise sages, they are scholars in all the scriptures and the warfare and everything. So they, in their ashram, they invite children from all around, and they teach all these scriptures, all the Vedas, the battlefields, the political sciences, everything they teach to all the kids from around. So sage Bharadwaja had a school where he taught students the Vedas, scriptures, and the art of using weapons. Among his children, among his students, there was Prince Drupada. He was the prince of kingdom called Panchala. So as you can see, the school welcomes everybody, and even sons of kings also, they come to these ashrams, to these gurukuls, and they learn all the scriptures and all these warfare techniques from these gurus. So Bharadwaja was one among them, and he used to teach to Drona along with Drupada. Remember, Drupada is the prince. He is the prince of Panchala. So he's going to be the future king, along with other students. So Drona and Drupada, because they're in the same class, they became very close friends. They studied together, they played together, they hung out together after the classes. So in those conversations, Drupada, he promised Drona that he knew that he's going to be the future king of Panchala. So he told Drona that anytime in the future, if you need any help, when you need any help, and I will become the king, so always feel welcome to come and ask for help, and I'll be happy to help you in whatever manner I can. Okay, so he promised that to Drona, and Drona, he didn't take that seriously, but he remembered that promise that Drupada had made. Krupacharya, another name. So we talked about Drona and Drupada. So Krupacharya, he was a wise and noble teacher in the Kuru court. The Kuru dynasty, with the Pandavas, Kauravas, and everybody, they have a teacher called Krupacharya, and he has had a sister named Krupi. So they both have same names, Krupacharya, Krupi. Krupi, she married Drona. Drona later married Krupi, and in due time they had a son named Ashwadhama. So again, Drona, Drupada, they went to school together. Drona is the son of Bharadwaja, the teacher in that ashram. Drupada, he is the son of king of Panchala, the future king. And Krupacharya, he is the teacher for Pandavas and Kauravas in Hastinapura. Krupacharya's sister, her name is Krupi. They both have same names, Krupa and Krupi. She married Drona, son of Bharadwaja, and they both, Krupi and Drona, they had a child, son named Ashwadhama. And all of them, so Drona is a son of Bharadwaja, and Ashwadhama is grandson of Bharadwaja. So they're all great scholars, they're all very well learned. So though Drona was wise and skilled, he was master in all the art forms, he lived a very simple and poor life. He didn't have a lot of money. He didn't even have money or cows to get milk for baby Ashwadhama. Though Drona, he never cared much about health. He wished for a better life for his son. He wanted Ashwadhama to live a comfortable life. So then Drona, he remembered his old friend Drupada, who had become the king of Panchala by then. So he became the king by then, and Drona thought that his old friend Drupada, he may be able to help him, because remember, he promised him when they were friends, at any time in the future, if you need any kind of help, I will be happy to help you. So he hoped for a small job or some cows or some money, something. The kings, they always used to help these scholars and these teachers who had ashrams and who used to teach everybody with financial help. So he was hoping a similar kind of help from King Drupada. So without any hesitation, he set out for the kingdom of Panchala to meet Drupada. So he went and Drona, he walked a long distance and finally reached Drupada's grand palace. So he went into the royal court, he bowed before the king, and he started telling him, reminding him, the King Drupada, that my friend, do you remember me from our old days at the Gurukul, the school? We used to be the students of my father Bharadwaja. You promised me once to help me when you became the king. Today I have come to seek your help, and I wanted to remind you of those old days of our friendship and how we used to have a great time together in my dad's ashram. But King Drupada, he looked at him with pride, and he was in the middle of the court. He was surrounded by his ministers and his subordinate kings and all his queens and everybody in the royal court. So he had this ego problem where he did not want to admit that he was friends with a poor Brahmin sage from some place. And he immediately, with cold heart, he said, you're not my friend, and friendship, it only exists between equals. A king can be friends with another king. A king cannot be friends with a poor Brahmin, poor teacher from somewhere. And you're making all these false claims and you're making me look bad. And how can we be the same? Look at where I am and look at where you are. And you are here in front of me claiming that we are friends. Instead, if you had just asked me for the money, I would have given you. But since you made these false claims in front of all my people that we are friends and you talk as if we were equals, I am very much offended by that. And so he spoke, King Drupada, he spoke many harsh words and ordered his guards to throw Drona out of the court. So see how ego played a big role, and he forgot his roots. Drupada, at this point of time, Drupada has a very big role in Mahabharata, and this is the lowest of his points. Throughout the story, he plays a great role. After this, it's all high points for him. But at this point of time, see, that's what I keep telling you about this great story. It just tells the human mindset at that particular point of time, how important it is to remember our roots, to remember where we come from. It is so important to remember all those and to be modest and to be down to earth. Those all are very important aspects. Again, one spur of moment, Drupada made this wrong judgment. His ego clashed with his human decency, and he insulted Drona. He didn't even say, okay, I'm not going to help you. He insulted him, and he showed him, he looked down upon him in front of all the people in the royal court. So obviously Drona, he felt deeply hurt and humiliated. He is a very self-righteous man. He never was behind the wealth. He just wanted good life for his son Ashwadhama. So he left the palace quietly, but in his heart he made a firm promise. So one day he wanted to teach Drupada a lesson for his pride and to beat his ego. So thinking of that and thinking of all the humility and the humiliating situation that happened in the court and the embarrassment and the insult that Drupada incurred upon him, so Drona started walking back to his house, weak, sad and insulted. He was hungry, he was tired, and he was passing by a forest nearby. And it was very close to Hastinapura. There he saw some young boys playing with a ball. They were the Pandavas and Kauravas, the 100 Pandavas, 100 Kauravas, and the 5 Pandavas, all of them together, and the cousins. They were all playing. While playing, their ball fell into a deep well. So for those of you who don't know what a well is like a deep round hole dug into the earth until it reaches a pool of fresh underground water. So to get water out, people lower a container like a bucket attached to a long rope down into the hole. Once the container fills up, they pull the rope back up and the water comes to the top in the container. So that is a well. When the boys were playing, the ball fell into the well and the deep water, so they didn't know what to do and how to get the ball out. They tried different ways. The boys tried to take it out, but they failed. Just then, Drona, he came near and watched the boys struggle. He smiled and he told them, okay, don't worry. I will show you how to bring it out. You are all princes and you are all these great descendants of Bhishma. You should be knowing this already. But don't worry, I will show you how to do it and I will bring the ball out for you. So then he very skillfully, he took few blades of grass, strong ones, and he turned them into arrows. And with his magical touch and with his bow and arrow, he started aiming his bow carefully and shot one grass arrow straight into the ball. And it stuck firmly to it. Next, he shot another arrow, which joined to the first one, and then another. So he's making a big stick out of these small grass blades, which is attached, the final blade is attached to the ball. So each arrow, it stuck perfectly to the one before it, forming a long chain. From the top, he just held the chain and he pulled the ball out from the well. And then once the ball came out, the boys, they clapped and they cheered with joy, and it was great skill, and they watched that skill of the archery. They were all surprised and they had never seen anything like that. Yeah, of course, the Bhishma is always there in the court, but it's not every day that he's going to take out his bow and arrow and he's going to show everybody his skills, right? There has to be a battle, there has to be an invitation to fight or something. So they had never seen that kind of finesse in archery before. So they all bowed to Drona and his amazing skills. They were very happy. So immediately they ran to tell Bhishma about this amazing skill and his great man. Bhishma, he came and he met Drona. He immediately realized that his skill and wisdom are great and unmatched. And pleased by that, Bhishma made Drona the royal teacher of the Pandavas and Kauravas to train them in warfare and archery. So remember, Krupacharya is already a teacher for Pandavas and Kauravas. Drona is one level above Krupacharya in all his skills, because he did schooling with his father with Bharadwaja, his father, and also later he went to Parasurama to learn archery and get lot of astras and shastras from Parasurama. So he had in his possession a lot of magical weapons and astras, shastras, and he learned them all from the great Parasurama. So we talked about Parasurama a couple of times before. Parasurama is the teacher of Bhishma himself. So Drona is also a student of Bhishma, Parasurama. So they both immediately connected, and Parasurama is that great warrior who went around the earth 21 times and defeated all the kings that stood against him. So he's that strong. So Dronacharya, Drona, he was appointed as the royal teacher, the topmost position in the kingdom, to teach all these techniques, the techniques of warfare, to Kauravas and Pandavas. So Drona, he wanted a job. This is like luck favored in his account, because he was looking for something like this to support his family anyway. So he immediately agreed to take the job, and he moved his family to the nearby to the Hastinapura, where he can teach all the princes under Guru Dronacharya. Acharya means teacher. Until now he was Drona, because he is the teacher of the Kauravas and Pandavas. Now he became Dronacharya. Every day all the princes of Hastinapura, they started learning all these techniques of art of war from Dronacharya. Every day they trained with bows, swords, maces, and spears, different weapons, right? So they started mastering in all the weaponry. Among them all, Arjuna stood out for his deep respect for his teacher and also great love for archery. From childhood times itself, he used to be very good at archery and his aim was perfect. So one day, Dronacharya decided to test his students. He placed a wooden bird high on the tree and he said, "You must aim for the bird's eye and the eye only." One by one, the princes came forward. First, Yudhishthira came and Drona asked, "Okay, what do you see?" Yudhishthira said, "I see the sky, the tree, the bird." Drona immediately said, "Okay, you will not be able to hit the target. Step aside." Next came Bhima and the others. Some people reported seeing a tree, some said they're seeing the branches, some said they're seeing the bird and the leaves behind. Finally, it was Arjuna's turn. Again, Drona asked the same question. He asked, "What do you see, Arjuna?" Arjuna replied, "I see only the bird's eye." Drona smiled and said, "Then shoot." Arjuna released the arrow and it struck the bird's eye perfectly. Everyone was happy, everyone was amazed by Arjuna's skill. So this just tells the importance of focus. Why this is important is, for Arjuna, his aim is the only thing in his peripheral. Nothing else mattered, nothing else counted for him. Only thing he ever thought of is the aim that he is looking at. At that point of time, it's the bird's eye, so he could only see the bird's eye. That is the kind of focus he had. So Arjuna's skill earned him admiration from everybody and respect. But again, it made Duryodhana jealous. Until that point, it is the physical strength of Bhima that used to worry him. Now Arjuna's added strength of archery. So they, even though they're only five, they are becoming stronger by the day, and Duryodhana, he didn't have any answers. So he wanted to slow down Arjuna's progress in archery. So one day he called the royal cook and said never to give Arjuna his food in the dark. He didn't want him to realize that things can be done in the dark also, like he can start practicing in the dark, he can start thinking of like closing eyes and shooting at the target. So he asked him not to give food in the dark. Then one night, as Arjuna was eating, a strong wind blew and it put out the lamp. Still Arjuna's hand went right from the plate to the mouth without missing. He knew where everything was. He was able to mix whatever he wanted to. So he told himself, okay, if whatever I saw a couple of minutes ago, my mind was able to register it. My hand was able to register and it was able to bring those items into the palm, and my hand was able to come into my mouth. So in the same way, I didn't need light after knowing that. So in the same way, I can do archery also in the dark. So that point onwards, he started practicing archery at night. He used to close his eyes. He used to see the target once, and then he used to close his eyes and he used to hit the target. And every time he used to always target and shoot perfectly. So Drona, he heard these arrows, the sound of arrows at night. He came out and he saw the hard work and the persistence that Arjuna is putting in practice, and he was very pleased. And he became his favorite student. So each of the princes, they became skilled in a special weapon. Bhima and Duryodhana, they mastered in the mace. And Ashwadhama also, he learned archery, mace. He was physically very strong. Nakula and Sahadeva, they became expert swordsmen. They were very good at using the sword. Yudhishthira, he excelled in fighting with the spear, and he was an expert in horses and chariots. But Arjuna, among all of them, he had the best skill of archery. He was very strong, clever, patient, and he was very eager to learn. While when their training was complete after a few years, They all learned and they all became experts in their chosen weaponry. So Dronacharya, he wanted to show the princes, he wanted to show off what they all learned in front of the entire kingdom. They wanted to display their talents to the entire kingdom. So he told King Dhritarashtra about that idea, and Dhritarashtra, he was delighted by that idea. He asked Vidura to arrange a grand stadium for the display. Soon they built a beautiful arena at the outskirts of Hastinapura, where they needed a lot of space. They filled the seats with all the royal nobles, the subordinate kings, the soldiers, the common people. Imagine like a soccer stadium or a football stadium kind of thing, where everybody was sitting and there is a space in the middle where they're going to perform on the day of the exhibition. Right, there's grand celebrations, the trumpets sounded, and the princes, they all entered into the field. One by one they started showing their skills. Duryodhana and Bhima, they fought fiercely with their maces. Their blows were so powerful that the ground shook. They both became very strong. They both became very strong young men. They both excelled in using the mace. Like wrestling and mace is their strength. The crowd shouted in excitement. So when the fight grew too wild and the emotions are so heavy, and Duryodhana, he always has this anger towards Bhima, so there was very, very tense situation. Even though it was for display, they both started fighting like it is a real battle. So Ashwathama, he ran in, he had to go in and he had to stop them. And then came Arjuna with his magical bow and shining arrows. He amazed everyone. He created fire, he created water with those arrows. They're all called astras, where a mantra is attached to an arrow, and with the power of the mantra, it does the weapon becomes different things. So sometimes it creates water, sometimes it creates fire. There is so many things that these astras, magical weapons, can do, and those are all the weapons that Drona got from Parashurama. And since Arjuna was his favorite student, he gave them all to Arjuna. So the whole audience, they cheered loudly. They were very excited to see all these magical things that Arjuna was able to do with his bow and arrow. Then, as Arjuna was concluding his display, a strong and handsome warrior named Karna stepped forward from the crowd. Remember Karna, the first child of Kunti? She had to give him up. He was born with the blessings of sun god, and he grew up under the supervision and the protection of Suta and Radha, his parents. He became a great warrior himself. He learned the archery skill of archery, and he wanted to show it to Drona and everybody in that audience. Without asking for permission from elders or anything, he just walked in boldly and he said, I challenge Arjuna. Arjuna and I should do a dual fight here, and we have to decide who is the stronger among us. Kunti, she was also in the audience. She had her own cabin. She was watching a small display. The mother of the Pandavas, she looked at Karna carefully. When she saw the shining earrings and the golden shield, he was born with those. Unlike other babies, he was born with a golden shield attached to his skin and with golden earrings because of sun god. And she saw them on Karna, and she immediately realized that the brave warrior was her firstborn son. Her heart filled with deep sorrow, for she had to stay silent while her son stood before her as a stranger. She can't claim him to be her son. She can't go and give him a hug, bless him, nothing. She has to keep quiet. So she was very sad about it. Dronacharya, after Karna, he announced or challenged Arjuna. He stopped Karna and he said, this display is meant only for the princes of the Kuru family and the other kings. you cannot take part of this unless you are a kshatriya who's born in the royal families. So at that moment, Duryodhana's eyes lit up. Duryodhana, he wanted somebody to match Arjuna's skill. None of his brothers had that kind of archery skills. So his mind started thinking. He had been long jealous of Arjuna's fame. Now he saw a chance to find a worthy rival to Arjuna, wishing to win Karna's friendship. He wanted to win Karna's friendship, and he wanted Karna to be on his side always. Duryodhana, he quickly stood up and said, he was replying to Dronacharya. Dronacharya, he asked that only kings or the Kshatriyas, they can participate in that display. So he replied to Dronacharya saying, if being a king alone makes one eligible to stand in this arena, and I shall make Karna a king at this very moment. If you think about it, Duryodhana, he was not a ruler by himself. He did not get the kingdom yet from Dhritarashtra. If anybody can give the kingdom to anybody, it has to be Dhritarashtra, because he was in charge. But Duryodhana, he took the freedom. So you can imagine the relationship between Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. And that by that time itself, Dhritarashtra is just like a puppet for him. Whatever Duryodhana said or whatever Duryodhana says goes. So Duryodhana, he declared Karna the king of Anga, a place called Anga. It's a small part of his father's kingdom. He declared Karna as a king of the Anga. Everyone was surprised by his bold act. But Karna, he was very happy, his heart filled with joy. He was deeply moved by this kind gesture, and he was very happy to be part of this group. He immediately promised Duryodhana saying, you gave me this honor and you gave me this respect when everybody else looked down upon me. So I promise you that I will be your friend forever. No matter what, I will stand by you and I will protect you, and all my services will be rendered to you, and I offer my friendship to you. So the two warriors, Duryodhana and Karna, they embraced each other. And Duryodhana, he gave the crown to Karna and he made him the king of Anga. And their bond of friendship, from that point of time, it became unbreakable. Then Karna took up his bow and arrow and he displayed his great skills. He was also a great warrior, and he also knew a lot of astras. So he created clouds, he created thunders, he created water, just like Arjuna. And with his movements were so swift and graceful that his aim was perfect, his arrows were shining like lightning. So everybody was very, very happy to see him, and his mastery and skill was equal to Arjuna. So all the audience, they watched him, and they were really enjoying the show. The air was filled with gasps and cheers. Karna's arrows struck every target that he was trying to aim at, and so everybody really liked Karna's display also, and they all started saying he is a great rival or equal to Arjuna in archery. With that, the display of all the skills that ended, and everybody, it all ended with great applause. The princes, all of them, they bowed to their teachers, and Dronacharya, he felt very proud. The kingdom of Hastinapura rejoiced at the strength and bravery of its young heroes, because they are going to be the future kings. So they all were very happy to see that the kingdom will be in such capable hands. So that will be our conclusion for the story part right at the time. So it gives us 5 minutes to do this next segment. Again, next week we are going to do a quick overview anyways. I know we introduced a few characters this week and we covered quite a bit of the story. But next week we'll do a review, a quick overview, so you will be able to remember what happened this week. So with that, we will conclude the story part of the session. We'll quickly go to the next session or the next segment. We were going to do the meaning and the purpose of some of the traditions, what we see around us, the Sanatana Dharma, the Hindus. Today, in today's segment, today's session, we are going to see what that crown-like thing is. When we go to a temple, the priest, they bring that crown-like thing and they touch the devotee's head with that crown-like thing on the heads of the devotees at that temple. What is that and why they do it? That is what we are going to learn today. The crown-like thing that we talked about, it is called a satari or a satagopam. In many Indian temples, there is a very special symbol of blessing. It is called satari, or some people call it satagopam. If you go to the temple, especially Vishnu's temple, right, you must have seen the priest place this satari on the heads of the devotees. At first, it looks like a little helmet, but if you look closely, you will notice something great on top of the satari. They look like tiny little shoes or padukas. Those are not ordinary padukas. Padukas means the wooden footwear that people used to wear back in the day, and the Lord is symbolized to be wearing those kind of shoes or those kind of padukas. Though they are the symbols of the holy feet of Lord Vishnu or his padukas. So the satari, it always rests when the priest is taking it out and bringing it out to bless the devotees. All other times it is resting at the Lord's feet inside the sanctum. Whatever offerings and honors and upacharas, prayers are done to the deity, the murti, the satari also receives them along with the deity or the Lord. So it is sharing the same services provided to the Lord as if the Lord is receiving them, the Lord's shoes are receiving them. So this makes the satari or the satagopam sacred because it carries the essence and blessings of the Lord's feet itself. Since devotees are not allowed to touch the murti of the Lord inside the temple, the satari becomes the way the Lord's blessings come out of the temple to reach the devotees. The word satari means sata, ignorance. Ari, any Ari is enemy. When we say Murari, he is the enemy of Mura. Satari, ignorance. This is the enemy of ignorance. So as soon as the satari touches the head of the devotee, it removes the ignorance. Satagopam also is the same meaning. It kicks away the ignorance of the devotee. So that's why it is called a satagopam. So since it is the enemy of pride and ignorance, when the satari touches our head, it is believed to take away negative qualities like anger, selfishness, stubbornness, and all those are taken out, and it fills the positive attributes like goodness, humility, devotion. That is why receiving the satari is considered such a powerful blessing. Also, there is a legend, there is a story behind how this all started and why the satari is used at all. To understand that full beauty of the satari, we must learn the story of this great saint. His name is Nammalvar. Long time ago, in a small town in Tamil Nadu, Nammalvar was born. From birth itself, he knew the greatness of God. He was always devoted. Everyone knew that he was extraordinary. He did not cry, play, or he did not worry about wealth. He did not ask for food. So he kicked ignorance at that when he was a very young child, and he was almost all the time he was in deep meditation on Lord Vishnu. As he grew up his days, he used to sit under a tamarind tree, not speaking much. He was always absorbed in the devotion of the Lord. So people understood that he was not an ordinary child, but he was a great saint. So he renamed him from Nammalvar to Satagopam. Again, Satagopam is somebody who kicked away ignorance, because he's always within himself enjoying the presence of Lord around and everywhere. He kicked ignorance. He did not worry about anything. He was never angry, greedy, jealousy, nothing came around him or came close to him. So he was given the name of somebody who kicked away in ignorance, which means Satagopa. By the Lord's grace, his heart always overflowed with poetry and beautiful hymns in praise of Vishnu. So these songs later they were all called as Thiruvaimoli, and they're even still sung in temples today in Tamil Nadu and other places, South Indian temples. Because Nammalvar is considered the foremost devotee of Lord Vishnu, temples honor him in a special way. The satari, it's supposed to be, which comes onto the devotee's head, it is supposed to be this Nammalvar praying to the feet of the Lord. So we talked about how the feet of the Lord are on top of the satari, right? So the bottom of the satari is supposed to be the Nammalvar himself, praying, always praying to the great feet of the Lord and always getting his blessings. Thus, when the satari is placed on our head, it is as if we are receiving the blessings from Nammalvar, the great saint, and also from the feet of Lord Vishnu. So double blessings. So that's why this is so meaningful. That's why, since the devotees cannot touch the sacred idol inside the sanctum, the satari comes out and the blessings are given to the devotees in the form of the devotees get the blessings of the Nammalvar and also Lord Vishnu. So next time when we visit a temple, when you visit a temple and when we visit a temple, the priest places the satari on your head. Close your eyes, bow your head, and feel the holy touch of Lord's feet. It is a reminder to stay humble, to let go of the pride, and to live with the love and devotion for the Lord and also for the people around us in our heart. So the satari is not just a ritual, it is a beautiful bridge between the Lord and his devotees. So that is the significance of the satari and why it is used and what it does to us when we go to the temple. So with that, we are going to complete that segment also. And now we are going to do our final segment, which is the Mangala Sasanam, which is conclusion with best wishes. मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्य पुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः